Hello, professionals. My name is Rico Aladdin, and I'm the founder of Professional Lunch. Today, my guest and I, we're going to have a conversation about mental fitness. And who is better to talk to about this topic than the man himself, the mental fitness guy? Glen Steven is in the studio with me here. We are going to take on the conversation. Glenn, tell the Professional Lunch audience who you are.
Oh, thank you, Rico. It's so good to be here. I've been looking forward to this. And I am the mental fitness guy. I work primarily with business leaders, and it's not easy being in business. Lots of stress, lots of pressure, and lots of different aspects of having to manage and people issues. So I come alongside and I help them as a coach, and I will coach them up on mental fitness so they can manage all of that stress much better than before with less stress. And I help them also figure out some business concepts and ideas to meet their challenges and opportunities and get where they want to go faster with more success. So those are the kinds of things I do. And I love the opportunity to talk about mental fitness, that aspect of it, because so many people want to know about that. And there aren't many people talking about it. So they know there's a need, but they don't necessarily know what to do, or that there's people here in our community that they can listen to. So,
well, lucky for those people, we have you here today. We're gonna
yes,
have the
exactly.
conversation. Yes. So, what is your background? You mentioned business. You mentioned mental fitness. Are you in the medical field or healthcare, or are you in the business field?
I am in the business field. I'm a former pastor
Oh,
turned
okay.
spiritual entrepreneur
Oh,
about 4 years ago.
okay.
And so I have that in my background, but I'm not a neuroscientist.
Okay.
I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a medical doctor,
Okay.
but I have learned a lot about mental fitness, which is a combination of neuroscience, cognitive behavioral psychology,
Okay.
performance science, and then positive psychology.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, there's the big question. The mental fitness guy is here.
Yeah,
So, tell me about the name. Why the mental fitness guy?
Yeah. I just like the name. I remember a couple of years ago, I thought, you know what?
Yeah.
So many people, when I talk about mental fitness, they would lean in. They were curious. They wanted to know more. They wanted to understand. And I thought, I would love to be the mental fitness guy for the Red River Valley. And that idea just stuck. It's like mental fitness guy. People can remember that. It's catchy, and so it just sort of stuck. And
Stick with it.
I'm going to stick with it, and people actually really like it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful. So, define mental fitness for the Professional Lunch audience.
Yeah. Great question. Mental fitness is someone's capacity to handle the challenges of life with a positive mindset and attitude rather than a negative one. That's the simplest definition. So when something happens that's challenging or difficult, instead of getting all stressed out and worked up and, out of sorts, actually knowing how to get a really great handle on it and figure out, what do I need to do in this moment with a calm, clear, focused attention with lots of empathy and curiosity and innovation.
Oh, wonderful. So, now that you defined it, what caused it? What causes it?
Yeah, that is, we have, let me talk about the brain a little bit.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have amazing brains. We've been given this gift of an amazing brain. It's also connected to our bodies, like they work together. It's a system. So in our brains, when something happens, our thoughts will follow after an event, and that thought takes a neural pathway. So we can take neural pathways into the part of our brain where all kinds of emotions trigger, and fear and anxiety. And we learn how to take those pathways fairly easily, but we don't always, and they're necessary when we have great danger right in front of us. We got to react right away. it's a gift that we can go that way. Unfortunately, people learn those pathways and they stay there too long, and they don't know how to break out of it. And what I get to help people do is build new neural pathways into the part of the brain where they are able to, engage with the executive function of the mind. So that's things like empathy and curiosity and innovation and creativity, deep purpose and meaning, and clear, calm, focused action. So what happens, why do we need mental fitness, is because we will take a step, something happens, it triggers an alarm inside of us, which is good, but then we stay worked up and anxious and stressed about that. And that turns into, we start hearing voices in our head almost like something's going to go wrong, everything's going to be terrible, or you're not good enough to handle this, or you're stupid, or you can't who do you think you are that you could, handle this, or you could show up in this place? Lots of self-doubt and anxiety, and people get stuck in that loop. And that is a real dangerous place to get stuck. Yeah. So the ways of thinking like that, the factor analysis research has been done. There are 10 major ways of that kind of negative thinking, and we call them mental saboteurs. It's the ways we self-sabotage in our minds, and it produces emotions, negative emotions. And so that's where this comes from. Stuff happens. Life happens, right? Every day we have challenges, and we take neural pathways to where those saboteur thoughts come into our heads, create these negative emotions, and we don't know how to get out of that. Wow. That's where the anxiety, fear, self-doubt, stress, anger, frustration, all of that negative soup of feelings simmers and brews, and it doesn't make a good food to eat. It actually is poisonous to our health, our emotional health. And so we need to learn how to get out of it. But the key is to be aware of your emotions. And anytime you're feeling those negative emotions, you can know one of those mental saboteurs is messing with you. Okay. So now I know that awareness just itself, it's like, oh, okay, I need to deal with that saboteur that's getting in my way. And now I can actually do something instead of feeling hopeless and helpless.
Wonderful. I have quite a few follow-up questions. Number one, you said you can show the people the leaders how to deal with those emotions. And we will talk about the 10 saboteurs in a little bit. So tell me about how would you do that if it was me you were working with, and how would you help me in that sense?
Right. Well, there's a free saboteur assessment that I would have you take. So we know of the 10 saboteurs, everybody's has what's called a judge saboteur, where we judge ourselves negatively, other people negatively, and circumstances negatively. So we just assume we all have that one. We're going to have to deal with that one. Yeah. And that's the voice that, wakes you up in the middle of the night in your head and goes like, oh, you idiot, why did you not do this? Or why did you let that happen? Or you're going to fail. You'll never amount to anything. That's that judge saboteur lying to us. Those are all lies. Yeah. Lying to us. But sometimes we don't know we're getting lied to. We actually buy the lie, and that hurts. But there's 9 accomplice saboteurs who double team us with the judge saboteur. And I would have you take that free assessment to find out which one or two of those bother you the most. So that would be the first step. Find out a self-awareness. You need self-awareness. Which of these self-sabotaging ways of thinking and feeling interrupt your flourishing and your thriving as a human being the most? Okay. Then I would teach you that the very first thing you need to do is be able to just go, oh, I got hijacked by one of my saboteurs, and just name it. Just say, admit it. Okay, that's step one. Step two is to use this body that we've been given. We have senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. This is amazing. If you will just focus on one of those senses for 10 seconds, if we were to hook our brains up to a functional MRI machine, you would be able to see that the area of your brain where your saboteurs are starts to go a little bit darker. And the part of your brain where the good stuff happens starts to light up just a little bit. Just 10 seconds of sensory focus helps you do that. And, 2 minutes is even better. 5 minutes is even better. So for example, and people can do this right as they're listening to this if they want to, take 2 fingertips, and if you rub them together and pay such exquisite attention, you really focus on that sensation and feel the ridges of your fingertips. You're doing that, and just do that for 10 seconds. You'll probably feel the difference. Or breathing, taking a deep breath in and just holding it maybe for a couple seconds and really noticing how that feels, and then breathe out and feel the difference, and do that 3 or 4 times and really pay attention to the sense of that, the feeling of your chest expanding and then contracting, and the relief actually you feel. I can do it right now, Rico. I can look at your eyes and notice the color of your iris and just really take that in, or the color of your amazing hat, and the shape of the hat, and notice the different shapes and the light, how it hits it, and there's a little shadow in different spots. Anytime we use one of our senses, we are able to calm our brain down when we're feeling worked up. That's why people benefit from meditation or mindfulness work. This is a form of mindfulness, and it's I love experimenting and trying different ones and finding out which ones help me the most, and then helping like if I was helping you, I'd help you experiment with different focus. Like, let's focus on sound today, Rico. Let's focus on sight, or let's focus on your touch. You don't have to just rub your fingertips together. You can feel your pants, and what's that feel like? You can feel something in the temperature, a bottle of water. Is it hot or is it cold? What does that feel like? Maybe take a sip and feel the temperature as it goes over your lips and tongue. And as you swallow, actually feel the water going down your esophagus. All of that, it seems so simple, but it actually moves the needle for mental fitness and improves your ability. Now, the next step is, okay, I want to go to the part of my brain where the good stuff happens. And the best way to do that is say, okay, in the situation I'm in, how can I turn this into a gift and opportunity? How do I turn any situation I find myself in, whether I call it a good situation or a bad situation, asking, how can I turn this into a gift and opportunity, moves you now up into that part of your brain where you have to now think. And it's actually fun. You start to experiment. You start to brainstorm. You start to get creative. You start to think, what really matters in this moment? And all of a sudden, a different part of your brain is firing that allows you to problem solve and take action and figure things out. So I would help you think about how to make that transition by just asking that simple question. And I can get into a lot more detail. Do you want to use empathy to do that? Do you want to use creativity to do that? Do you want to use curiosity to do that? Do you want to use purpose and meaning to do that? There's lots of little different angles you can go at.
Well, wonderful. I like the fact that you said that we can use our senses to do this while we are in the moment.
Yes.
But does that change the circumstance, your thought process just for a little bit, or it? What does it do actually?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. It does just a
Oh,
little bit.
yeah,
Right.
and then after that, you switch back again to
Yeah.
the bad mode. I mean,
Yeah. So there are days
Uh-huh.
I'm doing sensory perceptive. Like if I'm really anxious or really nervous,
yeah,
I'll set my timer on my phone for every 25 minutes and take a 5-minute break and do some of these. Like breath can be really helpful to me. Um, Tensing and relaxing muscles and really paying attention to that sensation really helps me.
hmm
And when I'm struggling with my own thoughts and the negative emotions, I just do it very regularly to help me calm down. And it's like a muscle, okay?
Mhm.
The more you do this and learn the habit, you it's like you develop mental strength, and it builds, it accumulates over time. So it might be really hard today, but get 1% better.
yeah,
And then the next day, 1% more better.
okay,
And you, after, it's like getting physically fit. If you go to the gym every day and work out every single day, you may not feel the difference tomorrow, but 2 months, you look back and go, wow,
yeah,
that flight of stairs was a lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I got a lot more energy than I used to have.
yeah.
So you have to trust that this will help. And let me tell you, the science, the neuroscience affirms this will help you.
Okay, wonderful. So I told a friend of mine that I was gonna have a conversation with the mental fitness guy. You know what question he told me to ask you? Is there a difference between mental fitness and mental health?
Yes.
Okay, what's the difference?
The answer is yes. They're very related but distinct.
Mhm.
So mental health refers to a person's overall psychological and emotional well-being.
Mhm.
So their ability to cope with stress, manage their emotions, manage their relationships. Mental fitness refers to someone's ability to use their cognitive and emotional resources to meet those challenges in a positive way rather than in a negative way.
Oh,
So I don't know. Well, do you hear the distinction there?
somewhat. I want you to be able to summarize that so that he can really,
Yeah.
filter through.
Yeah. So let me work to summarize that. I'm glad you want me to push into that. So my mental health is my emotional well-being. Like, how am I doing? And being able to, like, some days it might be low, some days it might be high. We are living in a season where many, many people are struggling with their emotional health. There's a crisis almost.
Yeah.
It's a very challenging, and younger generations can especially be challenged with this. So if I have a lot of anxiety, my emotional health isn't very good. But mental fitness now is my capacity to meet that challenge of lower mental health and doing the things that will help me to not stay in a low state of mental health, but move to a better place of health. So it's the how-to. Mental fitness is the how-to to move, like, recognize where you're at and then move to a better place.
Okay.
So where you're at is your mental health, and how to move to a better place is your mental fitness.
Okay.
And the more fit you are, the easier it is to move.
Wow. I was just about to say that, okay, mental health is being able to withstand some situation, but to deal with a certain situation, depending on your mental fitness,
Yes.
you can do that easier or.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is so good. It would be
Okay.
like if I went to a gym right now and tried to bench press 250 pounds.
Yeah.
The bar wouldn't move.
Yeah.
Because my physical fitness isn't strong enough to do that.
Yeah.
But if I were to work on it over time and really dedicate myself to it, whatever I could bench today,
Mhm.
in 2 months, I'd be able to bench more.
Oh.
Or if I wanted to run the Fargo Marathon,
Mm-hmm.
well, I can't just go out tomorrow and run the Fargo Marathon. I would need to train and build up my endurance and my strength to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So mental fitness is that process that we use to build up that endurance and strength emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we lean into it, the more we dedicate ourselves to it, the stronger we become. So then a challenge that trips me up and like makes me all depressed today,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2 months from now, it's like a little blip on the radar screen
Mm-hmm.
instead of really, destroying my happiness for today. So the stronger I get mentally, the fewer things bother me, or the amount of time they bother me is shorter.
Okay. I think I understand it, and so someone, let's say you were to have a family member that passed, right? Some
Yes.
people, depending on their mental fitness, would deal with that, a certain way.
Yes.
Would take it, worse than others that with a weaker
Yes.
mental fitness. Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. So,
Now, I do want to say grief.
mm-hmm,
People sometimes think that's a negative emotion.
mm-hmm,
Um, it's not. Grief, even though it feels bad, that's not a negative emotion. Grief is an expression of love and loss. Anger is part of the grief process. And all the negative emotions are helpful to us for a second.
oh, okay.
They're an alert signal.
Mm-hmm.
Something's wrong. You should deal with it.
Yeah.
Um, but grief, so I just want to, like, if you're really sad that you lost a loved one, and you should not beat yourself up and go like, wow, it's been a week, I should be over this.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's grief is love and loss mingled together and expressed with sadness and emotion. And that sadness isn't a negative thing. It's actually honoring to the person you now miss, because they were so meaningful to you. And that's different than being really frustrated that my coworker is doing something I wish they weren't doing, or my roommate is always leaving the toilet lid up when I ask them to put it down, or they never do the dishes or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to be real clear on grief,
Mm-hmm.
because some people feel bad that they grieve, and like, what's wrong with me? And I want to say that's human and that's normal and it's healthy. But if you stay stuck in a lot of, like, if it causes depression or anxiety or great fear, then you want to reach out for some help.
Well, when we talk about mental health and mental fitness,
Hmm.
I don't know, how do we look at? Is there a way to look at that relationship between mental health and mental fitness with suicide, with people with
Hmm.
addiction, with different other problems that people are facing?
Yeah. Um, those are very real and very life altering. So if someone is having suicidal thoughts or
Mhm.
feelings, that is a definitely indicator, like, my emotional health is suffering.
Mhm.
And what you probably wouldn't want to do is, I should go meet with Glenn and take 8 weeks to build my mental fitness, right? If you are having suicidal thoughts and inclinations, you should reach out to a professional right away
Mhm.
to get help. So now, most people don't go from happy, well-adjusted to suicidal in one day,
Mhm.
right? So the time to address mental fitness is right now, to help prevent getting to that place where suicide seems like the only logical option.
Okay.
mental fitness can help you not get to that desperate point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very and very dark, dangerous, and depressing place to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have probably had loved ones or friends that we've known who've gotten there, and it's like at that moment they need help, and so we should steer them to help, give them help, and get them connected to a mental health, a doctor or a mental health phone line,
Mm-hmm.
crisis hotline to deal with that. Mental fitness, I would say, is preventative, or after the fact, somebody's there, they get the help they need.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, okay, now you're in a place of stability. Let's build your mental fitness so that never happens again.
Yeah, yeah.
Addiction, there's a lot of elements that go with addiction. There's, the science says there's some genetic aspects to that. But then there's also the psychological and emotional coping with pain,
Mm-hmm.
trying to numb the pain,
Yep.
trying to escape. My reality feels unbearable, so what could I do to experience some escape from that? And that can lead to addiction. I am going to say, again, I'm not an addiction counselor, so don't, here's how I want to help, and just say, we all suffer. We all have challenges in our lives. And I do believe if someone has addiction problems, they're going to need help, professional, psychological, and medical help. But mental fitness, strengthen their mental fitness in that situation can help the recovery process and help the fight.
Okay.
If you've had the addictions, Alcoholics Anonymous or different, like they'll say, I'm an alcoholic. It's like I just need to recognize I may be a sober person for the last 20 years, and praise God for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I can never not be vigilant that I couldn't go there again. So mental fitness is one more tool in your tool belt, and a really good one, to help you in your efforts to be sober.
Mm-hmm.
So
As you are helping people get more mentally fit in your profession, so what are some of the things that you look at in order for you to better do that?
yeah, well, I love to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, my certification
Mm-hmm.
is with a company out of San Francisco called Positive Intelligence.
Oh, okay.
And we have ongoing training and learning. So there's, different professions will have CPUs or continuing education.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always getting more and more education. But so in my work, we use an app.
Okay.
And that app is my mental fitness gym is in my phone, and it's available to me 24/7 whenever I want it. And it has exercises. It's got a little gym section of my app where I can go and do a 2-minute workout to boost my mental fitness for this moment right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or I could do a 5-minute one or a 12-minute one, and of various kinds. So I've got my app. The app also has modules where I can learn, like, how do I apply my mental fitness to healthier relationships? How do I apply it to change management? How do I apply it to parenting? How do I apply it to that? I have learning modules, so I'm constantly learning those. And then in addition to that, there's daily workouts that I do, little workouts throughout the day. They're about 2 minutes in length. I do one in the morning, one in the early afternoon, one in the late afternoon. And I've just built the habit of constantly building my mental fitness using the app on a daily basis. And so that app is a real gift because it triggers the thought, and it provides the workout for me. And it varies from day to day. It's all, it's so I'm constantly building my own mental fitness.
Yeah.
The more I do that, the more insight I get to how it helps me handle a challenge. Like yesterday and the day before, I have a daughter with intellectual disabilities, and we got a message that some of her support was going to get pulled because we hadn't turned in some documentation that we never received the letter asking for it, and all of a sudden, like, oh, what's going to happen to our daughter? Well, that can be a very frightening, a very stressful situation. And I can see the difference in how I handle it. Instead of getting all lost in all those negative feelings, it's like, okay, what do we need to do? What needs to happen? What's going on here? How can we fix that we didn't get the mail that we needed? And let's fix that. And so it helped me to be much calmer and much more action oriented, to rather than all flustered. And you know what? We'll figure this out. We're going to get this
Yeah,
figured
you
out.
used a term earlier that talks about that when you have a situation and then your brain is going and going and
Yeah.
you know, you're panicking. That's the word.
Yeah.
And how you the term that you were using, I can't remember what it was, but and that helps you calm yourself down to find a way to to proceed with the
Yeah.
situation, which is really cool because we all need that. We all have situations at work that
Yep.
kind of trigger us in one way
That's
or
right.
another. And being able to be in the moment and say, I have to
Yes.
have control over this. I'm not going to
Yes.
let that dominate me.
Yeah.
I can take action and then follow through.
Yes. Being in the moment is so important.
Yes.
And that's why I'm doing that sensory perceptive work in order to really focus on my breath or something I'm touching right now or something I'm looking at. And I focus my attention on that. Now, you're going to have thoughts rushing into your brain trying to interrupt that all the time. That is normal.
Yeah.
And all you do is gently tell those thoughts to take take a number and wait over here. I'll come to you later, but right now I'm just focused on this.
Yeah.
But what that does is it brings you into that moment and only that moment. And when we're in the moment, stress kind of just falls off like water off a duck. When we're in the moment, we worry when we think about the future. We feel regret when we think about the past.
Yes.
But when we're in the moment, we just focus on the moment. So you're very perceptive, Rico.
Thank you. Well, another question I wanted to ask earlier. What are some of the services that you provide to businesses
Yeah.
that help leaders and maybe entrepreneurs
Yeah.
with their line of work?
Yeah. I help both. And thank you for asking that question. I offer with mental health, there's, like I said earlier, in order to build your mental strength, mental fitness strength, it's like building your physical strength.
Yeah.
And so I offer, the research shows it takes 6 to 8 weeks of intense effort in order to build a baseline of mental fitness. So I offer an 8-week mental fitness muscle builder course, and that involves some learning with the app every week, a 45-minute group session or an individual session with the person to process what they've been learning. And then Tuesday through Friday, they do those workouts that help them build their mental fitness. So, and that just goes for 8 weeks. And when you finish that 8 weeks, again, if you hook your brain up to, so neuroplasticity is the reality that we can rewire our brains. So in that 6 to 8 weeks, you actually learn how to rewire your brain. And if you were to measure where your saboteurs live, that part of your brain, you will see the atrophy And the part of your brain where the good stuff happens, we call that the sage brain, you actually see new gray matter there. And so anyway, that's one. I offer that to individuals who can join like a cohort and be with other people and learn. I also will come in and help a business or organization provide that to their leadership team or a management team or their whole company if they'd like that.
Okay. Saboteurs. You said there were 10 of them, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Can you briefly talk about, or at least name them, or maybe talk about a few, the worst ones for the audience?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about the ones I know the most, the ones that bother me the most first. Okay.
Sure.
So they have fun names that almost make you intuitively know what we're talking about. So I said before, we all have the judge saboteur, where we make judgments of ourselves or others or situations negatively. We all have to deal with that. That's the one saboteur that rules them all, and the other 9 work with the judge saboteur. So I have 2 that really bother me. One's called a hyperachiever saboteur, and the hyperachiever saboteur says you should always do more. You haven't done enough yet. Therefore, you aren't worthy of love. You aren't worthy of respect or acceptance because you haven't done enough yet.
Yeah.
So you got to do more if you want to earn that. So these are all lies. Saboteurs lie.
Yeah.
And they say, I'm your buddy. Let me help you out. If you just do more, Glenn, if you just do more, if you just perform at a higher level, then finally you'll be worthy of being loved and accepted. And the problem is anytime I hit a goal, my hyperachiever saboteur shows up and instead of being able to celebrate, says, oh yeah, now there's these 2 new projects you have to do.
Wow.
So it never is satisfied, right? So that's the hyperachiever saboteur. Now, every saboteur is based on a strength that's overused or abused. So having goals and being, action oriented and aggressive, that's a strength.
Yeah.
But when I overuse it and abuse it, that's when it becomes my saboteur. I have another one called the pleaser saboteur. So the pleaser saboteur is I want other people to like me. And so I will please, I will go out of my way to please them and sacrifice my own needs and my own wants, and out of fear that if I don't, they won't like me and won't want to be in a relationship with me anymore. And so my pleaser saboteur can really mess with me and cause me to get exhausted trying to take care of it. And I become resentful. Like, why aren't they reciprocating? So anyway, there's a pleaser saboteur, hyperachiever saboteur. There's an avoider saboteur. And the avoider saboteur puts off doing what you need to do because it feels unpleasant in the moment. And so it's like, I'll just, maybe I'll do that later. Or maybe if I just ignore it, it'll go away. So
Never does.
And it never does. And then all of a sudden the deadline comes and now you're panicked and you're completely stressed out. And so procrastination and an avoider saboteur go together. Perfectionism, there's a stickler saboteur. And that's like, okay, having high standards, but again, putting that on steroids, overusing and abusing it, now it becomes perfectionism. And there's only one way to do it. It's the right way. It's my way. And nobody can ever do it good enough, including myself. And then that'll drive you crazy. There's a hyper-vigilant saboteur where I'm always worried something's going to go bad. Something bad's going to happen. Something's going to be wrong. There's a victim saboteur, and the victim saboteur is the poor me. Why has everything bad always happened to me? And my life, it always happens to me, and I get stuck in this self-pity party, and nobody likes being at that party, right? That I don't want to be at that party. There's a so how many of those were those? There's a restless saboteur. Lots of entrepreneurs have this because they're so creative and they love new ideas. and they're easily distracted. And the restless saboteur is always saying, you know what? The next thing will be better. Don't fear of missing out, right? You better try that out. You've got to do this, got to do that. And so you're trying to do 500 things all at the same time because you're restless and you go in that way. So there's a hyper-rational saboteur where you overthink and overanalyze. And I think I forgot a couple, but those are what they sound like and how they impact us.
So in your practice, how often, what are the top ones that you see in the workplace?
Yeah, with business, the hyperachiever saboteur, and actually in the United States, that is like of all the accomplice saboteurs in the United States, we kind of worship the hyperachiever saboteur and hold that up on a pedestal in an unhealthy way, and so that's why we have a whole lot of successful people walking around feeling like they're worthless and haven't done enough yet. Is they've been hijacked by the hyperachiever saboteur. And that one is a very common one. Another one I didn't mention is the controller saboteur, where you feel like you need to control everything. And you feel like if anything's going to be done, you have to do it. And lots of business owners and leaders and CEOs, the strength there is I get things done and I do things and I take charge, but you overuse that and abuse it. Nobody's willing to step in and do something because you're going to come in and do it for them anyway. And they don't trust you. So they're trying to control everything. And all of a sudden you're like, why am I even here?
Yeah.
Yep.
That create burnout.
It
you
does.
don't want to delegate. And then that's something that I struggle with. I used to struggle with, but now I am a little easier. If I come with, I'm talking about something and then someone within the board wants to take it on, I say by all means. And then I force myself to be happy with the result.
Yes.
If there's a suggestion, I make them. If there is some feedback I can give, I give them. But if whatever they do is about 80%, good, I am okay with it. I accept it. And I think that I can relate when someone is in a position where whatever that goes bad, it's you.
Yes.
And now you so want to avoid making a mistake that people around you that we could trust with something, you choose not to.
Right.
And that create burnout for you.
Yeah.
And that, that puts you in a situation where people really don't trust the process, don't want to do more.
That's right.
Because they're afraid that you're not going to welcome their work, you're not going to accept their work.
Exactly.
So that's it's a struggle.
Employees disengage rather than engage.
Exactly.
And all
because
of a sudden,
they have a good reason.
You're
not going to value their work.
Yeah. So let me tell you something about saboteurs.
Yeah.
In our minds, we have mirror neurons. What that means is we don't even have to think about it or try. When we meet somebody, we can kind of tell whether they're hijacked by their saboteur or not, or if they're using the sage part of their brain or not. And when we meet somebody, reflexively, automatically, that part of our brain gets activated. So if let's say you have a controller saboteur and you were trying to control everything, and I walk into the room, my pleaser saboteur would probably want to come out and play with your controller saboteur, and they would be terrible playmates. And so when I'm hijacked by my saboteurs, it pulls other people's saboteurs out. So think about that in a workplace. But there's so much power in that, because if I can get control of my saboteurs and learn how to spend more time in the part of my brain where I'm using my executive function, any room I walk into, I'm pulling out other people's saboteurs, or I'm pulling out the best that they have. And so when I learn how to bring my best into every room, I'm actually helping pull the whole team and their best out. And there's a lot of joy and a lot of fun in that part of the brain. And it's exciting. Let's solve this problem together.
Yeah.
Instead of like, you idiots, why haven't you solved this yet? Yeah. I guess I have to do it.
Yeah.
I'm the only smart enough one around here. Yeah.
So, I always mention this. The show is about helping young professionals, college students, even high school students who are
Yeah.
trying to launch their careers. And it's important that I ask the guests really, how can students,
Mhm.
it's really college students, stay mentally fit?
Yeah.
What can they do to do that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say take the free assessment. If you're a college student, you're not probably rich, right? Yet. And it's a free assessment.
Mm-hmm.
That self-awareness right there is huge. And you'll get a report with really detailed descriptions of all the saboteurs and including yours, so you can learn some things there.
Mm-hmm.
And then start experimenting with sensory perception. Just today, I spoke at an event earlier this morning,
Mm-hmm.
and a young professional, probably 24, maybe 3, 4, who's just starting his career in the banking career, came up to me and said, "Hey, Glenn, I just wanted you to know." And he started rubbing his fingertips together. He said, "You've done this some around here, and I just want you to know, like, I use this all the time, and it really helps." And as a matter of fact, I was telling one of my coworkers who was really stressed out to do this, and I was like, "Wow, that actually works." So, learning how to do sensory perceptive work that helps you, and you can just experiment and sight, sound, smell, touch, breath. And just experiment with those. Find out what helps you the most, and then get in the habit as a college student. Let's say you get a bad grade on a test, and all of a sudden you're fearful. Well, ask the question: how do I turn this bad grade into a gift and opportunity? Maybe I'm going to study harder. Maybe I'm going to join a study group that I haven't before. Maybe I'm going to go get a tutor. Maybe I'm going to, you find out.
Ask the teacher. If you can retake the test.
Exactly. So, and just getting in the habit of making that a day, a practice of yours. Every stumbling block can be turned into a stepping stone. And so, what needs to happen for me to turn this into a gift and opportunity?
Yeah.
And you can turn it into 3 kinds of gifts. A gift of knowledge. So what do I need to learn so this doesn't happen again in the future? That's a gift of turn it into a gift of knowledge. Or a gift of power. What I mean by that is, how can I build my mental fitness? Like, how can I get stronger because I'm going through this? Or a gift of inspiration. What does this inspire me to do that I wouldn't have done otherwise? Like, go and talk to my professor and ask to retake it, or go get a tutor, or I'm inspired now to join a study group that I haven't before. So that simple question, if people don't remember anything else from this podcast, but if they'd remember to ask themselves the question anytime something comes up and it bothers them, how do I turn it into a gift and opportunity? Just that practice and taking that seriously can change your life.
Wonderful. This is a good spot for us to really get through the last few minutes of the conversation, because I like when I hear something good on the podcast, and then when someone hear that, they say, this is why I listen to Professional Lunch, because I know to get some, say things that can help me professionally. So at the end of the show, we usually ask guests to really help us guide young professionals by offering advice for generally. What advice do you have for young professionals who are launching their careers right now?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I have I'd love to sit down with every person listening to this for an hour and just ask them what their challenging situations are, and then help them with that. But generally speaking, when you're young, don't be afraid to fail. That would be one thing. Like, that's how you learn. That's how you grow. The only caveat is don't do a failure that takes you out of the game. That is those who fail the fastest without getting out of the game actually go the farthest and reach success more quickly. So failure, again, when you use that question, any failure, you go, well, how do I turn this into a gift and opportunity? And then you get better.
Yeah.
And so you almost want to, so lots of people hold back and are afraid of trying something because they're afraid they'll fail. And that's actually, that mindset is holding you back instead of moving you forward.
Yeah.
So that would be one piece of advice when you're young. Another thing I would say is don't underestimate how important the aspects of your life besides work are. Your friendships matter. Your mental well-being matters. Your physical health matters. Your spiritual health, as a former pastor who's still a very spiritual person, like that matters. So look for ways to grow all of you, not just part of you.
Yes.
And the habits you lay when you're just starting are probably going to be the habits you maintain throughout your life until if you ignored one of the warning lights on your dashboard, it comes and it forces you now to have to deal with it. So right now, think about the habits. Spend time thinking about what are the habits I'm giving myself to now, and are they sustainable for a lifetime? And you will go farther over the long haul. It's like investing money. That's another good, like, hey, don't spend everything you make. Actually invest some of it while you're young, and it will grow over time. Those are, I guess, some key pieces of advice that I'd give a young person. And yeah, have fun.
Yeah.
Have fun. Life is a gift. Open it up and enjoy it.
That's a good one. Oh my goodness, this is really good. I really love the last one. Life is a gift. Open it up and live it up, right? So that's really good. Really good. Glen, thank you so much for being on Professional Lunch today. It's when I go around and talk to young people, sometimes I feel that there is a lot more work to be done when it comes to mental health.
There is.
Although somebody is not going to come up to you and say that they are struggling with mental health,
right?
But from their statement, from the conversation, you can tell that there is something that there is some struggle. There are some challenges that they are dealing with, even if they don't say the word.
Yeah.
But it's there, right?
Yeah.
And there are some organizations in town that are doing some more great work to help with that. Dakota Medical Foundation is one of them.
Yes.
And so it's really important to keep this conversation going and see how even if you are in the business world, but that will also decide, will spread around.
Yes.
If you are a father, you having you're mentally fit. It doesn't serve just you. It serves everybody around you.
It does.
Yeah, so it's really good. Thank you.
The
so
ripple
much.
effects there. Yeah. Yes. Thanks, Rico. And I talked about this free assessment that people could take to find out what their saboteurs. I never said where they could go to get it.
Yes,
so that
was my question.
Yeah,
so I was going to say, how do people get access to your services? That's my last.
Okay. Well,
spiel there.
If you want to get access to my services, go to my website is mentalfitnessguy.com. So that's easy, and that would be the best place to go is mentalfitnessguy.com. And I also would say the place you can find, I have access to the assessment from my website, but the other place you can go is to go to positiveintelligence.com /saboteurs.
We will find a way to add these in the description as we post this. So I'll contact you, and then we can just get a lot of information for people who wants to check them out.
Perfect.
And reach out to you so that they can get the help they need.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I've really enjoyed it, and you asked great questions. And thanks for what you do. Yeah. What you do matters. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being on, because this is a much needed conversation. So I appreciate you taking the time to be on. Now, I have to tell the professional lunch audience that this year we have great news. Professional lunch is going to be part of Giving Hearts Day. And so we are relying on friends, guests, and organizations to help us go through that and be successful at it. But there's one major thing we are doing right now. We're trying to raise our match fund, which is $3,000, and we will have an event on November 30th at the Dakota Medical Foundation. Through part of it is to raise that money, but part of it also is to show how grateful we are to be in a community that is so supportive. My speaker, the keynote speaker for this event, is going to be Mark Desell, the author of How Fargo of You. And I can tell you, Fargo have been so nice to me, and so I couldn't be happier to have him speak at that event. So, more information are coming this week. Actually, this coming week. Please find your ticket and see how you can help Professional Lunch raise that matching fund. It's only $3,000, so I'm expecting everybody. If everybody who knows me put $1 together, I think I will get three thousand
Mhm.
dollars. And so, thank you all so much for listening to Professional Lunch and watching our show on YouTube and following our social media pages. We thank you. We appreciate that. Now, this is the part that I tell you it's up to you to make today a great day. Have a great day. All right. This is it. Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate it. So
You're
now, do you
welcome.
have time for lunch? Usually we have lunch after.
Um,
Um,